We're going to look at Ephesians chapter 6 this morning, and I want us to consider together in our chapel time the third piece of spiritual armor that God has provided to each of us in our walk with the Lord. I can't think of a paragraph in the book of Ephesians and really in all of the New Testament that is more relevant to where you and I live on an everyday basis than the passage that we're looking at that begins in verse 10 of this section of Ephesians, goes all the way down to the end of the chapter. Paul has revealed to us in the opening verses of this paragraph, verses 10 through 13, that we are engaged in a massive spiritual conflict of cosmic proportions. And arrayed against us in the field of combat is a host of enemy soldiers of immense proportion. We are told about them in verse 12 when we are reminded that we do not wrestle. Our combat, our engagement, our hand-to-hand combat is not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. When you get up in the morning and you leave your room and you come out into the world where God has called you to be a light in a dark place, you are coming against this army of spiritual wickedness. There are times in the Scripture where we have a record, particularly in certain Old Testament passages, of God graciously opening the eyes of people so that they could see beyond the limits of this terrestrial realm. That they could literally see things that are described here as the heavenlies. We have the servant of a prophet who could not understand his master's confidence when troop after troop after troop of soldiers would come against him. And he prayed to the Lord and he said, "Lord, open up his eyes." And the Lord opened the eyes of the servant, and he saw on all of the mountainside surrounding that little house where they were in what looked to be campfires. And it was the host of heaven that God had sent to protect the prophet. There are just times in the Scripture where we are given little windows into the reality